Welcome to the Midnight Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Easton Bennett, alongside my fellow co-host, Tyler Sinden. We are both entrepreneurs who are learning, growing, and building our own businesses. Our goal is to share experience and knowledge to help you grow and become a successful entrepreneur. Before we get started, if you have any questions or things you'd like us to cover, you can email us at themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com, and we will talk. And it's a new intro, and we will talk about it right here on this very show. If you haven't already, share the podcast with a friend or a foe so Tyler can quit his job and do this full time. Strap in. Tyler, how's it going? What do you think of the new intro?
Yeah, it's good. Hopefully no more changes. Maybe there's always time for changes, but yeah, it's good.
My muscle memory
joke about the intro.
My muscle memory lost me. I'm going to have to get used to this one a little bit.
82 episodes later. Now you got to come up with a new one.
I know. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. We were talking about that yesterday. It's 82 episodes, 83 now. So, we're going strong. We only missed one, and we'll hopefully never miss another one again. I don't want to say never, but...
Yeah. We're going to be at like 500 episodes and just be like, remember that one time that we missed that one episode?
Yeah. I was pissed on that episode.
Yeah.
Not satisfied. Never satisfied.
It happens. But yeah, we are back.
Yeah, and I'm back in a new location, back home.
Yep.
And I saw a sticker one time on the back of someone's car, and it said "never satisfied." And I was just thinking about that because it's good. It's a good saying, I guess you could say. But at the same time, I feel like it's not, because then you're never really satisfied. Because like, what happens if you hit your goals? Like, what happens if you get first in that race? What happens if you hit that $1 million? What happens if you hit $10 million? And like that was your main goal, and like, you're not satisfied. What happens like if you get that dream family, dream house, whatever it is, and you're just never satisfied? So I don't know. I just thought of that right now because like that sticker I saw was probably like a year ago, but I just said that quote and it reminded me of that. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
At what point do you start taking some sort of celebratory measure where you're like, oh, I hit this goal, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to reward myself for it, whatever that might be. Because there is a fine line between celebrating everything versus just, maybe here's a big thing.
I made my bed today. Let's celebrate.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess you got to start small. But yeah, I don't know. Andy talks about this a lot, where you're always trying to chase that next carrot and always trying to move that needle forward, where you're constantly trying to chase it and then you never actually do hit your goals. He talks about that, where it's like, if you hit your goals, that means you didn't set them high enough. And it's like, whenever you do get close to your next goal, say that goal is like $1 million and you're maybe at say 975, you move it to 10 and you're just constantly chasing it. So I don't know. I guess it just depends on who you are, what your goals are.
I saw a video of Gary Vee on Instagram, and he went to reach for some sort of candy or some sort of carbs or something, and he reached for it and he stopped himself. He's like, yep, that's a win, and like kept walking and started laughing. So he's celebrating even the smallest ones when he refrains from taking a bite of chips or whatever it might be.
Well, on the topic of that, I'm actually doing a little rest recovery week, and I've been cheating big time. I've been trying to get as much in, because come tomorrow I'm dialing in everything, like nutrition, training, just everything. Like, I want to be as prepared as possible when race day comes. So
you just been munching,
I'm up 10
or what?
pounds. Oh man,
10 pounds in a week?
No, since Tucson, so 3 months.
Okay.
So I'm going to be weighing myself tomorrow, and we'll see if I put on more weight within a week. I weighed myself. I mean, I don't think it was on Monday. It was sometime in this past week, though. I was at 170, and before I left Tucson, I was 160. So we'll see if I did put any weight on with this cheat week.
Do you think it's bad that you gained 10 pounds while in Tucson, or does it not really matter?
I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it benefits me in my training, because a lot of it's going to be climbing on the bike. And one thing that is a big factor is watts per kilogram. And that's basically what you're putting out when you're climbing. And the lighter you are, the faster you'll go. So I think a lot of the weight that I put on is probably mainly fat, and it kind of went to my stomach. So it's obviously not the best, but like maybe a few pounds was muscle. So hopefully just kind of shed off the fat and excess. Maybe some of it's water weight, but I think some of it probably is quite a bit of fat because I was cheating quite a bit in Tucson.
Some of it's going to be some Doritos or whatever it is.
No, it's ice cream, concrete mixers from Culver's. Man, those were so good. I ate a lot of donuts too. It was a good time though. But yeah, this is my last week. I've been cheating quite a bit, but after this week, dialed in. We're locked in.
When this episode releases, Tyler will be on, probably eating his 8 eggs, flipping it in the pan. If you guys follow him on Instagram, it's a daily occurrence. I see you're back on that now. You know, you took about a 3-month hiatus.
Yeah, because I was using a pot to cook my eggs in, and then at the same time I was making them scrambled, and the pan I got here is nonstick, so it makes it really easy to be able to flip those. So, and it's so funny. I think people love seeing that for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just like, is he gonna get it? And it's like there's an outcome to it, but I'll get close to 300 views on it, where my other stories I'll get between like 100, 150, sometimes around like 200 depending on what the story is. But I don't know what it is, man. Like, people love the egg flips. I don't know what it is.
That got me thinking maybe I should do something Instagram stories every morning where I say, you know, heads or tails, choose one, and then I flip a coin on camera. And that'll determine a lot of people's day.
There's always an outcome.
You know?
It's an outcome. That's what it is. Like, people are anticipating something. It's like, is he gonna flip it? It's like, is he gonna make it? So yeah, it's the what is it? It's like a reward, I guess you could call it. I don't know. There's an outcome to the end of the story, I guess you could say.
I think that's why a lot of people watch the videos on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it might be of people attempting to do the same thing multiple times, whether it's throw a ping pong ball in a cup from 20 feet away or whatever that looks like. They want to see that it might be a 45-second video, but they know that last throw is going to make it.
Right. It's like, you want to, I guess maybe it's like seeing the process and then the payoff.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about that because like, I do watch some of those videos, but then when you say like 45 seconds is like, why wouldn't I just skip to the very last one? Because I think you want to see the struggle in between, because it like builds the story. And then even though it's just throwing like a ping pong ball in a cup, and it's like, it like builds the anticipatory story towards it. And it's like, there's the payoff.
That's why people watch the egg flip.
It's crazy, man. I'm telling you, it's so weird. Like, whenever I do it, I get so many views on it. It's funny.
Something special about it. It's got to be the outcome thing. What else you got for us, Tyler?
So yeah, the other day, my client, he reached out to me and he's like, hey, I was talking to someone else in Arete and he was looking for someone to help out with SEO, and I thought you would be a good fit. So I mentioned your name, and he's like, if you're looking to take on some more clients, I can connect you guys. So he sent out the email. I'm going to be kind of browsing the guy's website and seeing what they could improve on, and not sure what that'll lead to, but potentially, I mean, my client's vouching for me, so that's kind of cool.
And that stems from doing a good job for the original client you had. I think we had a conversation on that at one point.
Yeah, that was kind of what he was saying. He's like, yeah, he talks really highly of you. Like, he's obviously in the email thread, so he might just be like buttering it up a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, it's like delivering that great customer experience really pays off, because then, and like, think about the same thing from his perspective, because he's referring me clients, and then it's like, okay, my client has my back, and it's like, I want to make sure like I'm giving him the best possible outcome. So it's like, I want to work harder for him to help him do better in his business.
Yeah, especially
so it's
if
like
he's
a
win-win-win.
Exactly. So that just kind of like sparked a whole like new thought process of everything. And I know a lot of people do like referral programs, and we kind of talked about this real briefly for you, and potentially setting that up, because I think you had like a real estate agent, but like having like a referral program, or when you even don't have a referral program and you just get referred because the service that you do is so great, that's just, good.
The new MLM.
Yep.
That's
MLM's taking over.
An SEO MLM over there in Toronto.
Yeah. So, and then the last thing on my plate is getting back into short form content. I know I was getting really into heavy on YouTube, but I'm gonna just like at a minimum, I'm just gonna be doing a roundup of my week trading. So it's not like if there's anything else, that's a bonus, but I'm just going to be getting back into short form content and hopefully potentially driving traffic towards YouTube, because that's kind of like the main source of everything.
I like it. Saw a couple of the posts. They're looking good. Even got something mixed up on YouTube where I told you to change the title on a long form video and it was not a long form video. So
yeah, there's the podcast that I sent you and Kyle. I think you should check it out with Dave Ramsey. He talks a lot about like did you like the funnel? Like how he talks about everything? He's like, we put a lot of effort into the short form content on YouTube Shorts, but that's not like our main primary source of income. It's to get them in the funnel, to get them to the main source. So like, it was really cool just listening to him talk about the funnel.
Yeah, I was on the same page as Kyle where I'm not a huge Dave Ramsey stan.
Same here.
But I went into it thinking, how is this going to be? It's Dave Ramsey, and I was actually pleasantly surprised.
I like the way Alex directed the conversation because he knows his audience and he directed it towards his audience. So I really like that aspect of it. But yeah, I went in, I was the same way. But one thing like I'm trying to change my mindset on, and Alex is like a reason for this, is if they have more money than you can't really hate on them because they're doing something better than what you're doing. So it's like you can't really hate on them. So that's like one thing I'm trying to change, because I always hated Dave's mindset on money and debt, and it's like, don't ever take debt, don't even use a credit card, don't do that, and it's like we aren't necessarily his target audience because we're smart with money. We're $500,000 in debt somehow. It's like whenever I hear that, I'm like, how? And it's like student debt. It's like, come on.
It's for the people that they spend like, crazy people. I was going to say a different term, but I forgot. This is live on air. Not live, but it's for the people that, they spend way more.
We're live.
Yeah. Way more than they're bringing in. So definitely that is his audience, but it was cool that Alex shifted it into more so his audience. I did like that a lot. So.
In business. Yep. What's going on with you?
So a little update on my end, going to New York City this Friday to Sunday for a quick little spontaneous trip. The documentary we were shooting with, did I say the company name before? I think I did.
It depends if you bleeped it out. You said it one episode and you're like, I might have to bleep that out. So I don't know if you did or not.
No,
I think we did it again and I said the same thing. And then you're like, yeah, I'm just going to say it anyways. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. So Beyond Meat. And if I didn't say it, there it is. We're working on a documentary. And they have one thing coming up this weekend and they couldn't really find anybody. And they said we fly out Friday to Sunday. So that is the plan for this weekend. Gosh, need to take a drink after this. There's a plan for this weekend and kind of stemmed the podcast topic this week on leverage, which we'll get into a little bit down the road, but working on the New York City trip this weekend, leaving Friday afternoon, coming back Sunday morning, which will be exciting. It's going to be fun because I want to go to another airport lounge. That's what I'm pumped about.
Get into the Delta Sky Club.
Yep. Go get especially my card, my fee for the Amex Platinum card is like $600 a year. So I gotta get
money's worth.
My money's worth from free meals and free drinks, whatever it looks like. So
don't you also get like your first bag checked free?
Yeah, I didn't have to pay any incidental fees, and you get to pick a $200 airline credit. So I think I have it on Delta where $200 if they lose my bags or free bags or whatever it looks like. But the nice part about it is the Amex Platinum gives you the free bag. So then other incidentals, whether you are, I suppose Delta, you can choose your seat for free too, unless it's like an exit row or something, but they'll cover those incidentals up to $200 a year. So that's kind of cool.
New York or Vegas?
The place I'd rather go?
Yeah.
Vegas, no question. I'll be going to Vegas in approximately 1 month from now. May 5th. Yeah, May 5th. So
nothing's taking it over.
No, it's pretty hard to take over. Other things on my list here, got a new gimbal. I was telling Tyler about that a couple days ago. Needed a new gimbal, went all out with the RS3 Pro. Spent about $1,500, and then I realized the day after people were posting in this group chat I'm in that it's on sale for $800. And I'm like, what the hell? Turns out they're coming out with the RS4 on Tuesday, tomorrow, when you guys listen to this. So I don't know what to do. I have to use the gimbal tomorrow, so I can't really return it. That's the reason I ordered it. And
just ask them for the discount. Be like, yo, I just bought this. I need the discount.
Yeah, I think that's the plan, because I don't want to return it and go through everything and ship it back and then get the RS4. Fine with the RS3. I think I might just say, yo, I got this last week and now it's discounted to this amount of money, and hopefully they give me a refund. If not, then, I'm out of luck, but all you can do is try.
For the potential people listening that might not know, what's a gimbal?
Oh, gimbal. So that is basically a stabilizer that you put your camera on so it's smooth when you're walking around. Yeah, I forgot this is a business podcast, not a filmmaking podcast.
So what's the shoot that you need it for? You said tomorrow?
We're doing a tour video of the Magic City Discovery Center, which is like a kids science place where they can go and look at exhibits. And there's going to be no people in the building. We're just walking through, showing what it looks like. And it's pretty hard to do that handheld, and my other gimbal's broken. So that is the reason I needed it. Plus, I've been waiting to buy it and I just haven't got around to it. Also, I'm a little irked with B&H. I talked to one of their customer support people. I asked them if one of their products would fit the lost product that I lost. It's on an aperture spotlight mount. We don't have to get into that because, again, business podcast. But they're like, yeah, it'll work perfect. Got here, tried it. Doesn't work worth a shit. Way too big. So a little pissed off about that. It was only $11, but I'm still, now it's a little nuisance. I got to find something else that works. So I'm thinking about opening up the B&H chat again and saying, hey, just want to let you know, stop telling people this works, because it doesn't.
Time and convenience.
Exactly. Now I got to go back to B&H. I got to order something else. Hopefully that works. Just first world problems, man. First world problems.
It's a rough life.
Exactly. The last update I got here, a lot of meetings last week, which was always exciting. Talking about new projects, working on current projects, getting the ball rolling. So that was a lot of fun to have. I'm looking at my thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 meetings. And then next week we got a few more. So it's exciting. I don't know what it is about meetings. When it is a meeting with a new client or talking about ideas, it's a lot more fun. If it's a meeting where, if you have a 9-to-5 job and you're having a meeting, I'm sure those get tiresome, but it is fun meeting with new people and talking about ideas.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get into a new position, because of all the client meetings. I'm like, oh man, I just hate meetings, because it's like the only time that I need to like specifically be at my desk and be there. It's like, it would be great if I just never had to be at my desk and I can just be there whenever I need to be there, or whenever I want to be there. And then I could just go out and train. And then like whenever I have the meetings, I got to put my training around the meetings. So yeah, that's kind of a nuisance. Yeah.
Meetings they're hit or miss. Sometimes it's like, this meeting's gonna be sick, we're going to get a lot done. Other times it's like, okay, we're about to waste 1 full hour.
Yeah, that's one thing that I like about, because like my one client, we have the Monday meetings every week. And for the most part, it seems like they're getting a lot shorter, because like I'm just learning the client a lot more, and like it's just like we've built up that foundation and they're becoming a lot quicker. And then not every week that we actually need it, because like that was one thing he wanted in the contract. He's like, I want 1 hourly meeting per month and 1 weekly meeting per month. And I'm like, ugh. But they're actually not too bad, because like it's, you come to know what to expect. And now like even last week, it was like a 10 to 15 minute meeting. So they're coming to just fly right by.
Yeah. It's always good to, once you get to build a relationship with a client, it's way better. The conversations almost turn into friendly banter where you can text them and ask them a quick question. You don't have to be formal and be like, hey, Rick, I was just looking at your website here and I was wondering. You could just say, hey, what do you want here? Hey, what do you want here? So that's how I was like the relationship building aspect of it. I was actually dealing craps last night, a gaming craps table for you guys that don't know, with one of my clients. It's his craps table, and he puts on this for the Mina High Prom. And I was dealing craps, and a couple of my clients that I've actually worked with were there, and just going up and talking to them. It's pretty easy to have a friendly banter because I have a good relationship with them. So if you can get all your clients to that point where it's just like your buddies that have known each other forever, that's the point you want to get to.
Yeah, that's nice. All right.
Let's get into this. No, that's all I got. Let's get into this week's topic here. So we're going to be talking about leverage. We talked about it at the top here. The reason this came about, there's been a couple situations that have came up about leverage for me in the last week. The one being the Beyond Meat project that we were talking about earlier on the New York City trip. And then one of my friends and people that I know talking about, they're going in tomorrow morning, or when you guys are listening to this, the day you're listening, into a negotiation meeting about a job position. So those were kind of the two areas that brought about this topic. But when I say leverage, Tyler, how would we explain that to the listeners? What do we talk about leverage? Because obviously we have the lever, and I know you threw it in the notes and then deleted it. Leverage is, moving something with an actual lever or a fulcrum or whatever you want to say. But when we're talking about the leverage in business and personal life, what would you say that is?
This would have been a good episode for you to wear the acquisition hat, because Alex always talks about it, that he has like a fulcrum in the logo, and like it's like creating leverage or whatever it is. But I think another scenario where you had leverage was with the conversations with Matt and buying his business out, because I think like it wasn't something that you needed to do. It was just like a nice acquisition that could potentially help out your business and grow it a little bit. So I think you had leverage there where he wanted to get out of his business. So it's coming up with leverage, or what a leverage is kind of just, it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like it's tough to explain or say what it is, but basically whenever you have the upper hand, I guess, in a situation, I guess that's maybe the best way I could say it. What do you think?
Yeah. And that's exactly what I have. I put on the notes here, to use something to the max advantage. So that's a really dumbed down version of it, obviously, but whatever your strength is in any situation you go into, that is your leverage. If you have nothing to use towards a situation or conversation, then that means you have no leverage, and generally not the best scenario to be in. So there's a lot of different reasons why you want leverage and why you should be looking to use leverage in any situation you go into. You don't have to take it down to the granular about having leverage on, what restaurant to pick when your family's deciding something. But when we're talking about the higher end business deals or salary negotiations or acquiring a business, whatever it might be, having leverage is going to make your job 1,000 times easier on actually getting what you want. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like that's a situation where I'm kind of in, where I feel like I have a little bit of leverage, but at the same time, I feel like I don't, just because this is later on in the notes, and it's just at my work where I'm going into a new position where I feel like I could have a little bit of leverage and be like, hey, give me more money. But at the same time, it's like, I go back and think like, how much revenue am I bringing the company in? And I think that's one area that you can resort back to, where if you're bringing the company a lot of revenue or a lot of cash flow, whatever it might be, profits, you're able to go into a conversation with, say, the boss, the leader, whoever it might be, and be like, look, I'm bringing in all this money for the company. Either pay me or you're going to lose me. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, that's when you have a lot of leverage, where if you say you don't bring any revenue into the company and it's like you're easily replaceable, then you don't really have any leverage to go in and be like, then it just becomes entitlement, because it's like, hey, I work here, I want to get paid more money. And it's like, okay, what do you do for the company? It's like, oh, I don't do anything. It's like, you got to have that leverage and build that up. And then at the same time, it gives you confidence.
Yeah. You have to provide value to then obtain that leverage. One of my favorite examples to always use is if you're bluffing or not. If you go into a conversation and you talk about, hey, I want a raise, you can tell them you want a raise. If you know that you provide a lot of value to the company and you drive a lot of revenue, and that if you left the company, they would be in a worse spot, you have a lot of raise, or you have a lot of leverage, and your not card, but the card you're playing, that, hey, give me a raise or I'm leaving, you're not bluffing, because if they don't do it, you can leave. Whereas if you don't drive that much revenue for a company, if you aren't that valuable and you go in and say, hey, I want a raise or I'm leaving, they can say, cool, good luck. And now you've got your dick in your hand because they called your bluff. So that's the one thing I always like to say is, if somebody called your bluff, would it matter? And again, it goes back to the poker terms, but you want to get to the point where whatever you say, you're okay with it, especially job negotiations. The person I was talking about earlier, when they go into this negotiation, they're in an internship right now, and they were talking about salary. You know, what salary do I ask for in this meeting? And we had the conversation, well, what kind of leverage do you have? And there wasn't a whole lot, right? You're in an internship and you don't have a ton of years of experience. You don't really have that defining skill set that is going to drive a bunch more revenue. So it's harder to negotiate your salary. You kind of have to take what they give you, right? Whereas if you went into it saying, you know I'm 2Xing this department that I'm in, then you have a little bit more room to negotiate and some more wiggle room to, if they say, I'll give you 50,000, you can say, no, I'm taking 60 or I'm leaving, because you know that it's actually beneficial. So that's the example I always like to use is, if they call your bluff, would you be like, oh shit?
When do you think it becomes the point where it's like, is it really worth the extra amount of negotiation? I feel like that's negotiation and this is a leverage topic, but I don't know. I just thought about that.
They go hand in hand because a lot of negotiation deals with leverage. And maybe we'll do an episode fully on negotiations. One of my favorite books is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. If you guys haven't read it, it's on the art of negotiation. I've read it twice and listened to it twice on Audible. So check out that book if you can. But yeah, you always have to be willing to walk away from the scenario. So saying you go and you get a job offer or they want to pay you, you can always say, hey, I want this amount of money, right? I want $60,000. And if they say, no, we're not going to give that to you, you need to get to a point of I'm willing to walk. So finding that number, whatever you want to use your leverage towards, if you say, I'm going to say 60, but I'd be okay with 55. Well, if they get to 50 and then you say no, they get to 52, they say no, they get to 54, and they still can't get to 55, you have to be willing to walk, right? So I think you got to get to the point where the leverage you have, you know what it's worth, which is really hard to determine a lot of times. But if you're going off some of the stuff that Tyler talked about, if you know your exact revenue you're driving or the return on investment that you're getting on your marketing dollars, whatever that looks like, it's easier to quantify. But sometimes it is a little bit subjective.
Yeah, because one thing that Alex always talks about is, are you willing, because like a lot of these opportunities are potentially, depends if like you're an entrepreneur, you're like trying to go there to work and you just kind of want a job, but are you willing to go there and you're basically getting paid to learn, if you think about it? Because if you maybe don't know what you want to do and you eventually say want to start a business, going to, say it's in marketing, going to a marketing agency or a marketing department, and you're under people and you're going to be learning a lot of the industry, a lot of how it works, a lot of SEO, whatever it might be. You're basically getting paid to learn, where it's like the opposite of school. And it's like a better version of school, a better deal.
Trust me,
so
school,
it's like,
sucks.
So it's like, are you willing to say, because you don't want to negotiate up and be like, I want $80,000 and then you aren't learning anything. Like maybe that's your goal. But if you're willing to be in a learning phase and you're saying like, I want $60,000, maybe I'm fine with $50,000. They give you $50,000, but you got other people that are way above you and able to teach you. You got to look at those invaluable lessons that you're going to also be learning at the same time, because it's like, okay, I'm getting less than I want, but at the same time, my skills, my knowledge, my experience is going to be growing exponentially, which in the long term is going to create a lot of leverage for me, because then in the future, I can either help the business out and create more money. And then at the same time, I'm going to be able to go into the future and be like, hey, I have all these skills, all these knowledge. I'm helping the company grow X amount. And now you have leverage. Or it's like you end up going out on your own and you create your own thing, because now you have all the skills and knowledge, and then you also have leverage in that sense.
Hot take here. I think we should start saying, instead of, go learn a bunch of skills, go create leverage for yourself. That might be better than just going. Obviously, skills give you leverage, but going to different avenues and creating leverage. So if you go into a job, say, okay, you got 2 years to create as much leverage as possible. Meet who you need to meet for using them as leverage. Learn as much about the business as you can for leverage. Learn as many skills as you can. Maybe the game should be creating leverage rather than gaining skills.
Or just collecting a paycheck.
Whatever you want to do. Either or.
Yeah. I guess it's all personal preference. But yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. And I think a lot of people don't really look at it that way, where they're not trying to gain leverage. They're just kind of looking for a paycheck. Like a lot, like I know it is a tough like an economy, like in a sense where everyone says like they're struggling, but it's like, I don't know.
If you're rich,
but yeah, just trying to. What?
I said, if you're rich, just say that.
I mean, yeah, I'm not, but nowhere near where we're trying to get to. But yeah, I don't know.
One thing when I was putting together these notes, you don't realize how many situations you actually where leverage comes into play, and it might be a conversation with your friend. If you go into it's a group of all your friends and there's 8 people there, and you all revolve around, sitting there drinking beers, laughing. The funniest person there, he's got the leverage because he's funny. He can make the group do whatever. If you're going to pick up a girl at the bar, whatever it might be, if she says no and you have leverage because there's 10 other girls you can go talk to, that's some leverage because you can go try them. If she's the only girl at the bar, you don't have much leverage. Maybe then she has more leverage because exactly supply and demand. That's all it comes down to. And then
I think at the same time with that specific example, like your personal finances as well. So it's like, do I need, is that going to be like a net positive or a net negative? And do I really need this girl, or is it just going to be like one thing? Or I don't know. You want to continue? You had other stuff on there. Yeah,
just a couple other situations for leverage. We obviously talk about the marketing and the business sides of leverage, but we don't talk about the everyday leverage, like those conversations or picking up a girl or whatever it might be. If you get into the business side of things, if you're doing a business deal, you have a lot of leverage. If you know that this buyer falls through, you've got one right here that you can go to, and you can use that as leverage in the conversation, saying, you can pay me X amount of dollars. You have to match because this buyer over here, he's going to pay me that. So you have the leverage. You can now pit them against each other. Salary negotiations, we just talked about those. Do you have a different offer? If you have an offer for $75,000 from an outside company, you can then go to your bosses and use that leverage saying, hey, you match them at 75 grand or give me a little bit higher than that, or I'm leaving. That right there is leverage. So it is crazy the amount of leverage that you see and you don't really notice it. The reason this came up, the Beyond Meat project, they didn't have anyone to shoot the project. So really I had all the leverage. I was the one able to make the decisions. Do I want to shoot this? Do I want to give them a discounted rate? Do I want to upcharge them? Whatever that looks like, all the leverage was on my side. And that felt
What did you end up doing?
I sacrificed the leverage for the relationship is what I did. And
we'll see how that pays off in the long term. So we can touch on that in the future and see if that relationship did end up paying off in the future.
And that's something I have on the notes too, is when should you really sacrifice leverage? And we'll get to that a little bit down the road. But there are times that maybe you have all the leverage, but there's a reason you don't use it, right? So we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, there are a ton of areas in your everyday life where you might not notice there's a ton of leverage. So really going back to gaining as much leverage as you can.
With your situation in leverage, do you think it's a win-win, or do you think it's a win-lose, or do you think it's too early to tell?
I would say it's a win-win. It's definitely a win for them. For me, I'm viewing it as a win because I'm viewing it as a relationship building. And the difference is that they're already, like, they pay for the flight and they pay for the lodging. It really comes down to how much do I want to charge them to actually shoot with my camera when I'm in New York City. And I look at it as, if I charge my full day rate or if I charge half my day rate, what does that look like? Is that really going to make a big difference to me in my business if I get a little bit extra money? Probably not.
LTV.
But for them, knowing they have a marketing team and they have a set budget for this specific project that, there might be some, not consequences, but they might get a slap on the wrist for going over budget. That might be a little bit harder for them. It might be a bigger repercussion for them than me just saying, oh, I want the extra $600, right? $600, does that really move the needle all that much? No. But if you can take that discount, allow them to be happy, they have someone to shoot it, and then in the long term, it might make for a better relationship. That's when I think it's a win-win situation.
So slightly off topic from leverage, when you're billing them, do you showcase that you are giving them the discount in a sense, or are you just saying this is what I'm charging?
It's more so showcased in the conversation beforehand. So the conversation leading up saying, hey, can you shoot this? You say, I'm going to help you guys out here by doing X amount of dollars or whatever.
So is that what you said?
Yeah. I mean, not directly like that, but I did make it known like, hey, what are we working with here? Obviously, I know this is the general rate. I'm willing to help you guys out. What are we working with here? So there is a conversation up front where it's, hey, I just want you guys to know that this isn't normally how it goes, but I'm going to help you guys out here.
Yeah. So I was just wondering if you clearly let them know that you are giving them a discount or like a good rate. And at the same time that you are showing that this isn't your, I feel like they do know your normal rates just because they've hired you for other projects, but making sure like they know that this isn't like what you're going to be charging them every single time.
Yeah. And you have to go back to, hey, this is going to change. Willing to help you guys out here just to build a relationship and just because I like working with you guys, but just having that conversation up front. LTV, lifetime value, people. And really, circling this all back to one thing, having leverage, these high leverage situations, the more you have, it's going to allow you for a better chance at the outcome you want, a positive outcome. It's not going to guarantee it. You might have all the leverage in the world and the person still might say, kick rocks. And that's okay. But the more leverage you have, the more often you're going to get what you want or the better end of the deal. I don't like saying better end of the deal because you still want the deal to be fair and them to be happy as well as you, but you get to dictate terms a little bit more.
Get a little win-win situation. Win-win-win.
Win-win-win.
I forget what that is.
Win.
It's from The Office. Where
like all the Asian people that go to Vegas, their last name is Win, and it's spelled Nguyen.
You go to Vegas a lot? Or?
Yeah, I know the wins. So Tyler, how do you get leverage then? We've talked a lot about how to use it and why you should use it and why you should want it and acquire it, but how do you get it?
Yeah, I feel like it was sprinkled in intermittently throughout the podcast, but I think at the same time, it depends on what you're talking about. So say you're talking about a business or a brand, it's having and building that strong, reputable brand. Like Nike has a really strong brand, so they have a lot of leverage. So if they want to go to the bank, they can be like, hey, I'd like $1 billion. And they have that strong, reputable brand that's worth maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know what they're worth, hundreds of billions. Sorry, not millions. Yeah, they're able to go to the bank and be like that because they have that leverage. They have that brand name. And same thing with like Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi's built up all this goodwill, this good trust. And now he has this strong, reputable brand and he has leverage, say in negotiations or whatever it might be. It's like he's able to be picky and choosy on what he has. And then I think it also comes back to, say, supply and demand. With you and your situation where you were potentially buying out the other business, you didn't like need this to happen. You just thought it would be beneficial to your business, where the other guy kind of wanted it to happen. He was trying to get out, trying to exit. He didn't really have many options. So he loses a lot of leverage at that point because he doesn't have options. He wants to get out and he wants to go a different route. So he loses a lot of leverage in that sense, where you kind of gain the leverage because it's like, it'd be nice to have this. It's not something that I need, but it would be nice to have.
A lot of times the leverage falls on wants versus needs. You really have no leverage if you need to take this job because you need to pay the bills this month. If you have a bunch of money coming in, you have more leverage to pick and choose what you want to do, whether it's these are the clients I want to work with, these are the clients I don't want to work with. That is a good point. That supply and demand really does determine a lot of the leverage that you have.
Yeah, there was also something else that I heard. It's a lot easier to get a job when you have a job. Because it's like, I don't need this new job because I have my current job. But when you don't have a job and you're trying to get a new job, you're really desperate. So I think a little bit comes back to desperation. Are you desperate for this to happen? And sometimes people can smell the desperation. So you basically just don't want to be desperate. You want to go in with confidence. And how do you get that confidence? You build up that leverage over time. And how do you build up that leverage? Skills, knowledge, experience, and that basically gives you that leverage. So don't be desperate.
One of the sneakiest ones that you mentioned was brand. I think brand is one of the sneakiest pieces of leverage that you can have that's not talked about a whole lot. I don't know why. There's just a weird thing around brand, but everyone should be trying to build a brand as much as possible, because I personally think it's the most powerful piece of leverage that you can have. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
Oh, for sure. Like people don't buy. I mean, I feel like Nike's a bad example, but people don't buy Nike shirts because they're the best quality. They probably are. That's why I'm saying it's not the best one, but they're probably up there with like the best. They aren't really buying it because of that. It's because of the value and the brand reputation that they've built over the years. I'm trying to think, like Supreme. I'm assuming like they sold a, what was it, a brick for like, I don't know how much money. And the reason they did that is because of the brand they built. And it's not like what are you going to do with a brick?
Yeah. You're just going to be able to say, like, oh, I got a Supreme brick.
Yeah, right. It's like that's another situation where it's supply and demand, where everyone wants to be rocking Supreme, but they found a good way to hack the system, and they would only have limited drops. So it's like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and there's only 40 of these. So it becomes what's it called? Limited edition. So it's like, this is going to be extremely rare, but they built up that brand where it's like, I'm going to be buying it no matter what, because it's this brand reputation. It's who you associate with. I think First Form and Andy, it does a really good job at this. And it's like, whenever you buy First Form, this is what you kind of think about. It's like America, pro America, America first, going above the limits, whatever it might be. So they have all these core values that they kind of back. And it's like, whenever you're supporting this brand, First Form, that's what you think of. Yeah.
You hit the nail on that. Can't really add much to that. Brand is something you definitely want for leverage. So start building up that brand. Another area, Tyler mentioned it a little bit. If you are working for a business, because I'm sure some people out there listen to this that aren't business owners, if you're working for a business, again, going back to what we said, if you bring in a lot of revenue, figure out how to bring in a company a lot of revenue. If you're confident that if you were to leave, that you're basically irreplaceable, or that they have a hard time finding an employee to get to the level that you're at, this is going to give you leverage in your business. Well, in the business you work in, rather than if you were an entrepreneur. So there are ways to gain leverage, even if you're a W-2 employee working the 9 to 5, whatever that looks like. Bring in a lot of money, gain a lot of knowledge, skills, experience. Maybe you start to build a relationship with your clients where that's some leverage you have. So there are ways to do it outside of just entrepreneurship as well.
I think that was a good area that I did at work, where I built up these really good client relationships, and they really liked me. And when we were doing the transition, a lot of the clients that had been there for a while with me, they're like, oh, sad to see you go. It's like, one of the clients is like, can you come on our next client call so we can say bye one last time? And it's just like, a lot of people, like, when you build up and it's like, you have that relationship, and it's like, okay, if I leave, these clients might leave you guys because I've built up such a good client relationship. I know some of the clients that we have, they stick with certain people that end up leaving their current role, and they got to do their previous tasks role when they switch to a new position, because they would probably leave if they went to someone else. So it's like, you got a lot of leverage at that point. It's like, I'm bringing, like, say that client brings in $60,000 in revenue a year, and they're going to leave if you give them to someone else. That's a lot of leverage.
And that's what you need to get to the point where all of these things come into play. The relationships, the skills, the experience, all of that allows you to direct whatever the situation is, however you want it. If you want to go ask for a raise, awesome. If you want to start a company over here, awesome. You can say, I've worked with all these clients, or bring the clients over with you. Whatever that looks like, you need to get that leverage. Just allows you to go in with more confidence. The ball is now in your court. You want the ball to be in your court. You want to be on offense. There you go. Let's use that as a little saying.
Is that anecdote or metaphor? Is that what it, or is that, I don't know those.
Balls in your court. It is an idiom, possibly.
Metaphor. I don't know what an idiom is. A figure of speech that implicitly compares two unrelated things, typically stating that one thing is another.
A metaphor would be like, you're as flat as a door. Or maybe that's a simile. I don't know. Whatever. Go listen to a language podcast if you want to know about similes and metaphors. One of my favorite things, Tyler, that I've taken from Never Split the Difference from Chris Voss, again, the book I mentioned up top, is the 65% rule. So if you go into any negotiations or salary, start with your 65% number. So if you have your bottom number that you want to get to, whether it's, let's say it's $50,000, that is your 100%, the lowest you could go or the highest you could go. The first number that you throw out in negotiation should be 65%. So maybe you're at, $35,000 because that's 65% of 50. You're an employer trying to hire somebody, and you start at 65% and say, the most I can do is 35,000. And they say, no, there's no way that's going to work. Then you go up to 85%. You say, okay, fine. That's not going to work. I could do 42. And they say, nope, that's still not going to work. Then you go up to 95%, and you say, okay, I can do 45,000 top dollar. And they're like, that's still not going to work. The final step is 4 steps: 65, 85, 95, 100. Your 100 is going to be 50,000. But instead of saying 50,000, you use a concrete number that sounds like you put some calculations into it. So you're like, well, I can do $51,394. So then it's like, oh man, that is, there must be some calculations behind that. That's literally all they can afford. And then one thing he liked to do in the book too is he throws in something of non-monetary value that they probably don't want. Like, oh, we'll do $51,394, and I'll give you 2 tickets to the local baseball game. That's just a little bonus. It's like, okay, do those tickets to the baseball game not do much? But that signifies that you are at your limit, that you are at the very top, and you can't go much more than that. So the nice part about this system is that if you do 65 and then you do 85 and then 95 and 100, you're going to get some scenarios where they say yes at the 85, where you say 65%. You're like, okay, I'll give you 35,000. They're like, no way. You say, okay, I can do 42. And they say, boom, perfect. Well, you were willing to go to $51,394, but you just got them at 42 by using 65, 85, 95, 100. And they call this the Ackerman model, if you guys want to read into it a little bit more. But one of my favorite things, I actually haven't implemented it very much, but it always comes in my mind when I think about it. I just don't know how I'm going to get to that point where I would actually have to use it, or what scenario that would be.
What do you think you would do if someone asked you to break down the numbers when you say $51,394?
Make it up.
Okay.
Say I could send you over a document later today, and then just go fudge something.
Okay.
Might as well.
You got to make it add up to that exact number that you gave him.
In the way he explained it, he was obviously doing it in hostage negotiation with like terrorists, because that's what he used to do for the FBI. But a lot of times when a terrorist was looking for ransom, they'd say, hey, I want $100,000. Well, if the U.S. government or the FBI says, oh, we can give you 15,000. He would say, oh, I can't do that. So he'd start at 65% of 15,000, which let's say it's 7,000, and then go up from there, and then say, I can do 14,912. That's all I can give you. That's all we have. And then if the terrorists know, okay, that's the top dollar, we're not getting much more than that, then they say, okay, awesome. So you got them down from 100,000 to $14,000. So cool. It's really cool. I like it. It's a good book.
Cool. Yeah. If you're ever in that situation.
Yeah. Last thing I want to touch on here. Yeah, if you're ever in a hostage negotiation situation. Last thing I want to touch on here. Also, I'm hearing my a fire alarm in the other room beep, and it's driving me absolutely insane. It's like every 15 seconds, just beep. The last thing we talk about here, when should you really give up or break your leverage? We talked about it a little bit early on in the episode. If there is some sort of gain, whether it's long-term or you can see something in the near horizon that would help you gain leverage for this. Sometimes I've thought about this before, is shooting a free project. If I do something for free, I now have a favor in my back pocket. If I help somebody out, leverage. You now have leverage. And you see this a lot. If you've seen the show Suits, lawyers, they'll do things for other people, and then they have a favor in their back pocket where if they need something done down the road, they can go to them and say, hey, remember that time I helped you out? You now have that leverage to force their hand. So if you see a situation like that where you know that if you give up your leverage at the current time and it won't hurt you that much, you maybe have leverage down the road a little bit more.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Tyler, anything else to add?
I don't think so. Just work on building up that leverage.
Don't focus on skills. Focus on gaining as much leverage as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into this week's business idea, the stair lifter. So again, I talked about this at the top of the show. I was dealing craps for one of my clients. We deal craps for the MHS prom, and we have to move the craps table from my basement up the stairs into the back of my truck, of course. And that thing is heavy as all get out, and moving it up the stairs. And what I was thinking, it'd be sweet if you could attach something to the bottom of really heavy objects that like rolls up the stairs, like it goes one step at a time, and then you can just push it up the stairs. Whether it's a couch, whether it's a table, whether it's a heavy end table, whatever it is, something that you can set on the stairs and it can go down the stairs almost like a conveyor belt. I don't know how it would work though. It'd almost have to be like a stepping type system.
Yeah.
Almost like a triangle that would roll down and flip on the steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking it's like, it kind of like rolls the wheels on top into the next step, and then it just kind of continually goes, and you just kind of push it up, and it's like you're pushing something on a flat bed, but it's on an incline.
Because it is, if I had one, I would spend money. I'd spend it in the middle of this episode. I'd order it right now. If you're like, here it is.
So what are you talking about? Like, what was this for? Was that a craps table?
The craps table, yeah. So it's 10 feet long and 5 feet wide. So you put it on your side, and it weighs freaking 300 pounds. So you're pushing it up the stairs, or not pushing it, but you're carrying it up the stairs, and you're trying not to drag it so you don't cut the carpet or anything. Like, man, it'd be sick if we could get it on the stairs, pop these little wheels under it, and literally just push it right up.
I saw this, I don't know what it is, but it was to carry, like, say, refrigerators, and it's like it goes around your shoulders, and it's like a whole strap thing, and then like it goes underneath the fridge, and then there's two people on each side, and it's like they're just walking around like it's not even anything like crazy to be lifting.
I was gonna order those, but I have to move the craps table once a year, so I'm like, I could suck it up.
How much were they?
I haven't even looked because I thought about it. I had to move the craps table on Friday, and I thought about it on like Thursday. I'm like, well, I can't get them here now, but I have to move the craps table once a year. It really only sucks when it goes up the stairs. Getting it down the stairs is fine. I mean, gravity does all the work, but when you're fighting gravity, man, it is a tough task.
It definitely is. So, gravity's a bitch.
If anyone has a source on that, please let me know, because I would love to. I'd love to get that. It's called the stair lifter, or create one for me. That'd be great. All right. That's episode 83. I got some breakfast waiting for me upstairs. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Make sure that it is good, better than the last. That's episode 83 of The Midnight Entrepreneur. If you have any questions you'd like us to cover or answer, email us at themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com. And if you found value in this content or found this entertaining, share this with a friend or post it on your story. And if you really enjoyed the show, we'd love a rating and a review wherever you are listening. Talk to you guys next week for another episode of The Midnight Entrepreneur.
Leverage is the reason some people become rich and others do not become rich. Robert Kiyosaki.